Hello, my name is EMunoz, and I'm going to be talking about and discussing a topic on what type of exercise environment will help increase motivation and physical activity levels in college students. There is my reference page. And then to give you all an introduction, okay, we have this rising occurrence of this epidemic of decreased physical activity levels, and this has led to around 250,000 deaths each year. Now, what they'll say in research is that those that work out in adolescent years usually trails into their adulthood. But following that, we have this issue that we have now, this rapid reduction though in college students in those adolescent years, which makes it a possibility that we'll have less and less adults working out. So there needs to be some type of approach or method to target increasing these levels of physical activity in college students. So that's why I'm going to present what are the type of exercise environment that will be appropriate and will help increase motivation and physical activity levels in college students. The self-determination theory is what I'm going to use as my framework, and also what you'll see within the research I will search. This theory by Deci and Ryan, they're actually looking at this is a theory about motivation. And this can be motivation looking at an intrinsic motivation, where you're only looking at maybe your body image or trying to get a trophy out of it, or it can be focusing on the intrinsic motivation. So you're focusing on how you feel or how you actually enjoy the activity. That's your intrinsic motive to actually do the activity itself. Either motivation, extrinsic or intrinsic, no matter what is your choice, but Deci and Ryan believe that if you're going to enhance those motivations, you need to fill those 3 psychological needs. The first psychological need I'm going to share with you is talking about autonomy. You want to make sure that the actual person feels in control of their own behavior, not pressured, and that they have a choice in what's going on. Number 2 is you want to make them feel confident about themselves. So in a simple way, this is just making them feel they're confident in their situation. Then the third one I'm going to discuss is relatedness. And this is making sure, in order to fulfill relatedness, that they feel, accepted or understood within a group setting, and that they feel that they're a part of something. So again, Deci and Ryan believe if you were to target these 3 psychological needs, you're going to see an increase in their type of motivation, and therefore see an effect on a certain type of behavior. In this case, we're looking at the behavior of physical activity. So what I'm going to share with you within the rest of this presentation is looking at what researchers found when they actually satisfied these psychological needs, and how it really created a positive effect towards motivation and physical activity within college students. I'm going to first start with relatedness, then I'll show some article on competence, and then I'll show a couple articles on how autonomy has been proven to be very beneficial. So my first article I'm going to share with you, these are all university students, total around 600 participants, so a pretty big number. They were asked, to just fill out a survey, and what they were measuring, the researchers, was just looking at the least and most preferred setting for aerobic and weight training exercise. And they just asked the participants to choose one of the following. The choices were exercising in a structured class, so just taking a group fitness class at the SRC would be an example of that. The second option would be exercising with others, but outside of a structured environment. The third would be exercising on their own, but they're in an exercise setting. And the fourth option is when they're just exercising completely alone and they're not within that exercise setting. So what researchers found from this is that, exercising with others in an outside structured environment was actually the most preferred between males and females. So what this kind of clearly shows us is that relatedness is a really just important component and is the ideal setting for what most college students prefer to exercise in. So if we definitely tackle having that small group environment, that will increase the chances of motivation and physical activity to occur. This is an article focusing on how competence is involved. This is again university students and a little bit of employees as well. They were asked, as part of the methods, they were to join one of two groups. One group was an aerobic activity, aerobic class, and the other was a taekwondo class. And the difference is what they want to focus on here in this study is that typically the aerobic class focuses on more body-related motives, how they look, where taekwondo, you don't really see those type of motives. It's more about your skill and your performance, not really what you look like. So the researchers hypothesized that the aerobic exercisers, they would report more of those extrinsic motivations in order to be active within that environment. The second hypothesis, they believe that people that really focus on those body-related motives would actually, would show a decrease or not facilitate at all your attendance rates or adherence. And also they hypothesized that people who have greater intrinsic reasons to actually, participate in that activity, such as competence or enjoyment, would actually show much more positive attendance rates and adherence. So the results they found from this, the first one they found is that those in the aerobic group did have higher body-related motives compared to the taekwondo group, which is what was hypothesized before. Also, the taekwondo group reported higher confidence levels and enjoyment compared to the aerobic group. And then third, the taekwondo group also did have a lower dropout rate and a higher attendance rate compared to the aerobic group. So how we can talk about that discussion, really what they're saying here is that when any type of students or any participants are within an environment where they're really focused on body-related motives, it increases the chances of it increases the chances of them being more disappointed in themselves, by not being able to keep up with certain body images or achieving a certain body image, and will most likely lead to decrease in their confidence levels. They're not going to feel as confident just because they're not fulfilling this body image, and therefore it's going to diminish and decrease their physical activity levels. They're going to give up and avoid this situation. So what's important here is that we provide an environment that is more about intrinsic motives, not just focusing on the body motives, and making sure that we can just focus on increasing in confidence levels and making sure that they're enjoying themselves rather than focusing on what they look like. Autonomy, this was again university students. This was looking at the technology of Wii and video games, and that's what you see here as interactive virtual reality exercise. It means talking about Wii Fit games and so on. So the participants were either placed in one of the three groups. The first group was you could be in a self-selected, your choice, interactive virtual reality exercise. The second one, you were involved in a interactive virtual reality exercise, but someone chose your activity for you. Then the third option was you just do a regular exercise on a bike with no type of interactive virtual reality exercise. So the hypotheses they indicated, the first one was to evaluate the impact of exercising in a regular versus IVR, enriched environment, on pre and post mood changes and the in-task affected changes. So just to see if there would be a difference with the video game group compared to no video game group, and seeing how the moods would change between those. Number two is the addition of putting in that self-determined component of providing choice with that type of IVR group would actually show more benefit and in-task pleasure compared to the just being an IVR technology group alone. So results were found that people that were in the IVR exercise, they showed more positive pleasure compared to those who were just in the regular exercise group and on the bicycle. So obviously having this extra stimuli of technology and video games was a benefit, and they saw that. But they saw an even higher pleasure rating when the people got to actually choose the actual exercise activity rather than being just put into one by someone else's choice. So this absolutely confirms the self-determination theory on how providing participants with a choice and giving them options actually, enhances their effective responses and makes them more susceptible to continuing that activity as well. So here, this is the last article I'm going to share with you, and this is looking now at autonomy support. So what I mean by autonomy support is that within this article, they're looking at how maybe an instructor or a person can give off this autonomy supportive approach. And they're seeing if there's any type of influence from that. Now, autonomy support would be an instructor that portrays this non-controlling, non-pressuring type of environment. And also is taking an input from others, giving options and choice, using non-pressuring language such as, you could do this, you may want to do that, rather than you should do that, and you must do this. So that's what they're going to look at more within this actual article. Participants were all female, but again, all university students. They were looking at the effect of this autonomy supportive and interpersonal involved group exercise instructor and seeing how that would actually affect the exercise participants, their psychological needs, their motivation, and their exercise behavior. Methods: participants signed up for a 10-week exercise program. They were either placed in the experimental group, which was with the autonomy supportive instructor, and then the control group, which was the other group, was placed with the instructor that's just a typical instructor not showing that autonomy support. Results that were found: the control group actually reported a decrease in autonomy support throughout the 10 weeks. Also, the experimental group showed an increase in relatedness and competence levels. So again, the experimental group are the ones that have this autonomy supportive instructor, which, although we hear the word autonomy, we think that, oh, you're only focusing on autonomy. Absolutely not. They were also measuring the other psychological needs. And they did show that, with this autonomy supportive instructor, relatedness and competence both did increase significantly. Also, with attendance rates and exercise behavior, between both groups, the experimental group did have much higher attendance rates compared to the control group. So what we can take from this is that this autonomy supportive environment definitely enhances psychological needs, as we saw with competence and relatedness, but also physical activity levels. Their attendance rates were much higher compared to the control group. So having a non-controlling environment seems to show a much more positive effect, especially with physical activity in this case. So in conclusion, going back to, what type of exercise environment will help increase motivation and physical activity levels in college students? So kind of wrap it all up, it's going to want to involve, going back to our relatedness article, you want to make sure that they have that option and that choice to be in a small group setting. They showed in that relatedness article that being a part of a group is most preferred when they want to go exercise. So that's important to really tackle in relatedness. Second point is to focus more on the intrinsic motives and how you feel and your enjoyment rather than the extrinsic of looking at body-related motives, And this will help actually increase confidence and enjoyment much more within that type of activity. Then looking at including options of choice is when we were talking about the autonomy article with the video games, when they just were able to self-select their own exercise video, that just already increased higher pleasure rates, which is something that obviously if they have higher pleasure rates, they're more likely to sustain that type of activity because they were able to choose and they prefer it. Lastly, is if incorporating this autonomy supportive environment, and if there's gonna be an instructor around or any other people that are trying to motivate others to be active, especially college students, autonomy supportive is shown in many research that has been very effective towards increasing motivations, psychological needs, and physical activity levels. So just by thinking about these type of components and what has been found in research, I think that it could be definitely a benefit in helping enhancing the motivation in college students, increasing physical activity levels, and declining that whole issue of lack of physical activity within the whole US. Is there any questions? That is all for my presentation. Thank you very much.